Well, let's talk a little about some of the other porn parodies. I have a giant satchel of porn here.
Oh, okay.
So let's talk about, you brought it up, let's talk about Evil Head.
Yes, that is a.
Let's replace
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it is. And actually, you had a lot of fun.
It's a great movie.
It looks like you had a lot of fun in Evil Head with sort of the slapstick.
Yeah, well, Evil Dead is such a campy, silly movie, so I wanted to capture it. That was something that actually upset me about the real remake of Evil Dead.
Funny.
Oh, it was like so serious, and that whole like element of adding like a drug addict going through, you know, going through withdrawal.
I think the idea was that they wanted you to maybe think it was all in her head, but I'm like, we've seen the original.
Yeah.
That's the appeal. We know that there are Deadites, and we saw the opening. At the opening, it had nothing to do with her, so like it didn't entirely function. So your remake of Evil Dead is actually the superior version on every level.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I like the part where they have
There couldn't
sex
be
in
nearly as gory.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you have
the actual remake. God, it was so gory. I had to cringe at certain parts. I was like, stop hurting him.
You do have a spectacular chainsaw death. It's actually like maybe go, yeah, I don't know about that.
Which one in the movie?
It's sitting on a chainsaw.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty gnarly.
That was relatively gnarly. That was relatively gnarly. How do you worry about, or do you worry about sort of balancing when you're doing these horror parodies, the violence and the sex? Or are you even worried about making the sex erotic anymore? At that point, is it just kind of fun that we're even doing this?
Yeah, we're not, I mean, yeah, it's pretty hard to worry about being erotic when you have like demon eyes, and you know at that point there's going to be certain people that are into it and certain people that aren't, you know? So it's like we try to just do something and just kind of do it. But there's a lot of rules that, you know, we have to follow to make sure our movies can still get distributed in this, you know, in all the stores. And
what sort of rules are there?
You can't have, and I learned this the hard way after doing Repenetrator. You're not supposed to have blood and sex together.
Yeah.
So if you notice, in Evil Head, people die, and then there's sex. You know, like you can't have two people having sex and then blood coming out all over the place. So people die after sex. People, you know, like if you notice that, you know, the big end scene when Ash is having sex with all three of us, then there's like our heads get cut off afterwards.
Yeah.
It couldn't be during the sex. So once you start combining those two things, so I made very sure to stick to that. You're also not supposed to show like they even said during death, they didn't, I've just heard, you know, you're not supposed to have like a whole bunch of blood coming out of like a vagina or blood like around your boobs or something. So during the death scenes, I try to just focus on the arm, the head, the stomach, and not just like go over the top on like,
eroticizing the violence specifically.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the kind of general rules that we stuck to, which, you know, giving it enough blood and enough sex.
One thing I like about this movie is I feel like in a lot of the porn parodies, and I understand this is probably for Google search and SEO purposes, they just put the name of the thing and then say a parody, like The Walking Dead, a hardcore parody.
I know. You know, I really did not want to call Walking Dead a hardcore parody, but I could not for the life of me think of a good title. Walking Head sounds ridiculous. It makes me sound like a head is walking.
Yeah.
You know, we thought about calling it The Fucking Dead, but then it sounds like just like a lame, like cheesy zombie movie.
There's a line in Evil Head where
Evil
it feels
Head
like
is...
you were going to go call it The Fucking Dead and then maybe you change it. There's a line.
Oh.
I wrote it down. Hang on. I'm very prepared.
I couldn't think of a Walking Dead parody name, and so that's why we...
You'll never stop the fucking dead! And I was like, oh, is that what they were going to call that?
No.
No, that was
it
never
was
the
always
plan?
Evil Head.
Yeah.
I like just trying to come up with it. You know, like we did an LA Ink parody a while ago, and I called it LA Pink.
That one kind of writes itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Walking Dead, I couldn't think.
Dead?
No,
I know.
Like so The Fucking Dead. I couldn't think of anything that made sense, so that's why we went with the hardcore parody.
Okay. Well, let's talk about another one. Let's talk about.
I like your little DVD displayer,
Thank you very much.
like holder thing.
Well, we're very professional here at Crave Online. Let's talk about.
Can I just say this one is my favorite one?
This is a lot of
know
fun.
It's not a big crazy zombie movie. I love this movie.
This movie is Fuckenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Fuckenstein.
What is it about Fuckenstein that you love so much? Like, is it just your favorite like horror movie, or You just enjoy making it?
I think this one was still able to remain sexy.
Yeah.
The other ones couldn't.
Yeah.
And this one, you know, the costumes and stuff.
The period underwear.
Yeah.
And the lab coats.
Yeah, so I think this one's like a little more girly than the other ones.
Well, this one's sensitive, and I like this one. Like, this is the version of Frankenstein. This right here, Fuckenstein. This is the version of Frankenstein where they did it for love. It wasn't like, I'm obsessed with my work, I'm going to ignore my girlfriend, fiance. He's like, I'm going to make a Fuckenstein.
Yeah.
I'm going to make a Fuckenstein for her.
For you, so you can get DP'd.
Yeah. Yeah, which is really sweet.
Yeah,
I think that's really adorable.
It's really adorable.
I really, but it strikes me that, okay, so you're going to do a Frankenstein parody. Fuckenstein, again, writes itself.
Yeah, exactly.
What made you, because, okay, what's our take on this? You're going to decide what's our take on this. Was that the first idea you came up with, or were there other notions of how to do the Frankenstein
No,
story?
I'm going to tell you, and I'll give them credit for it. I should probably remember the director's name. I'm such a jerk. Okay, I came up with this idea because I copied someone who copied someone else. Fine. Okay. I went to, at Hollywood Forever,
the cemetery.
The cemetery. They had a screening for that horror movie, Chillerama.
Oh yeah, that was really fun. There was the comedy anthology. There were a lot of people involved.
Yes, there was a bunch of different movies in there, and there was one clip in that movie that was the Diary of Anne Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
And I loved it. I watched that whole movie. Was great. All of it was funny, you know, for different reasons. And I love cheesy horror movies, and I particularly love horror movies that embrace the comedy in it. That's
that was
they're my favorites.
That's a hard genre to pull off, and that's one of the better recent entries.
Yeah, and I loved The Diary of Anne Frankenstein. I thought it was so funny, and I really liked how they parodied the original Frankenstein, you know, and it was in black and white, and they had the, you know, the what is it called, like needles, like when it really feels like an old film.
Grain.
Yeah. I liked it, and then it was close to being around the time where I knew I wanted to shoot something specifically for Halloween. So I went home and I was like, oh, I'm going to do my own parody of Frankenstein. I was like, well, he did it, I'm going to do it too. Obviously, no one will ever, mine was not about Anne Frank or anything like that.
Yeah, I think that might be a line.
So I went home and I rewatched the original Frankenstein, which I hadn't even seen since I was in college. And I was like, God, I forgot how good this movie was, and I just loved it, you know.
Up so well.
And the fact that it was only an hour long, and you know, and I thought it was so good. And then I don't know, I watched it and I just sat down and I just wrote the script in like 20 minutes, you know, like I was like, all right, this is how I'm gonna do it, and I really liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, we have it in both black and white and color, but it's really.
I wanted to ask you about that. Yeah, was that like just sort of an olive branch to young people who can't watch black and white movies? Or I feel like
we had both versions there. I was gonna leave it out completely, but my editor was like, "Do you want the color version just as an extra?" And I was like, sure, why not? I mean, because the movie is only an hour long, and it doesn't have like 8 sex scenes like a lot of, you know, bigger porno movies.
Like
it's kind of like one big long sex scene almost, sort of, you know. So I thought that maybe just having that there would just be an extra bonus on the DVD. But it was shot specifically for black and white. But when you shoot something in black and white, you have to shoot it in color, but you shoot it in color a certain way, and then you filter it. That's
so if you're watching Fuckenstein at home, black and white is the direct.
Black and white's the way to go.
Yeah.
We make it almost difficult to get to the color one. You have to like go to the extra scenes. But I love this movie. I had so much fun with it. You know, it was a very easy shoot. We shot it in just like a day. A friend of mine made the Frankenstein laboratory, and you know, it actually it looks so good, and it rose up and everything, and it was just so campy and funny.
The ending was very amusing, and I felt like, was that a young Frankenstein reference where they're just sort of, now it's all sort of banal, it's like an old married couple, just turn the oven off.
I just think it's funny to think of like two monsters like sitting in bed, like having a lame marriage, just like a lot of other, you know, just like these people have problems just like everybody else has problems, you know, or kind of like it's supposed to be years later when Frankenstein's already been adjusted to society and he's just turned into this guy that's like forgets to take the garbage out and forgets to leave the toilet seat down, and I don't know, I tried to like humanize him a little bit. But I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm glad that you liked it.
I liked it a lot.
And yeah, why I like this one the best is just because, like I said, I think this is the sexiest one out of our horror parodies. 80s, you know, because
it's a little hard to just sort of like, triple exorcist.
I think you could actually jerk off to this one. I challenge you to jerk off to Evil Head. I mean, it might be possible.
The first scene isn't.
The first scene.
You finish up and then it just goes.
The pre-possessed thing where I'm in the hideous 80s brown wig.
Oh, no, that does it for me. I miss the 80s so bad. You have no idea.
But, you know, I think this one is like cute and campy, and the sex is still sexy. So, but hey, I'm glad we did all of them. They're fun. I'm not sure what to do next. Maybe I think maybe we'll do Army of Darkness. I'm not really sure.
That'd be fun.
Just to complete, you know, Evil Head. And that one's totally different too.
Yeah, tonally it's very different. It's more of an action piece in a lot of ways.